multiple part series about my journey to Japan. In March of 2020, I went to Japan for 7 days. I toured areas in Saga City and Fukuoka. I wanted to make a video series of these, of some of the different experiences that I was able to have there while I was in Japan. I got to go hiking and biking in the mountains. I got to go game shopping. I got to eat lots and lots of amazing food, sushi and ramen, all sorts of different exciting fun things. So I wanted to kind of put together a series of videos, just short videos, easy to consume, just with each having a different theme to it. And this one is basically just my introduction to it. And in this introduction, I wanted to talk about what it was like traveling across the world during a pandemic, because right as I booked this flight, things had started getting worse and worse around the world. The coronavirus outbreak had started in Wuhan, China, so I had to cancel my flight. That was a connection flight through Shanghai, China. So my travel ban tickets were refunded that way. And then I also redid my tickets so that I was flying directly from Chicago to Tokyo, and then from Tokyo to Fukuoka to adventure down in southern Japan. So what I really had to deal with was the honest thought about canceling the entire trip altogether, just because everything was getting worse and worse, it seemed like. But I stuck to my guns, and I wound up keeping my tickets. I kept my Airbnb. I kept all the plans that I was going to do. Going into Japan in March. I left on Friday the 13th, March 13th, and I returned back to America on the 21st of March, so I was gone for a full week. And the whole travel and the whole experience and everything was probably a once-in-a-lifetime experience. When I flew out from Chicago to Japan, I was one of like 50 people on this plane, and this plane was a massive 400-plus seat plane. It was basically me, and then seats, and then another person, and then a bunch of seats, and then another person. There was so few of us on that plane that I had a row of 12 seats all the way across, and I could lay sideways. It was a 13-hour flight. I think I slept over half of it, so I was super comfortable. I had no problems at all enjoying my flight. I watched movies and slept most of the way and was totally relaxed and comfortable. It was amazing. And I agree with most people. You don't want to travel during this. You don't want to be exposing yourself and possibly getting contracted with this virus that's going around. But before, as I left on the 13th of March, there was no travel bans going on yet. There was no stay safer at home. There was no stay at home. There was no closing down of businesses around the country. None of that had started yet, so I stuck to my guns and just did my plans and went to travel and went for a vacation in Japan, and it wound up being an amazing time. I have a feeling because Japan, since they were more proactive to this outbreak, back in January, they did a little bit of that, where they did their stay at home. They were doing their closing of schools and all public events and major mass gatherings. Like they stopped all of that and canceled like the Tokyo Olympics, 2020 Olympics, and a lot of those things had been pulled back before I'd even left. So they had the mass gatherings and stuff like that had already been pulled back in January and February. So before I left, they were actually getting to the point where they were starting to open up some more of their things. So they had restaurants and bars and all kinds of normal activities were going on when I was there, and everybody was very welcome to the Americans. They loved me. They were so happy that I could speak just a tiny bit of Japanese. The whole adventure, the whole time I was there, I did not see very many other Americans. I didn't see a lot of tourists either. It was just mainly Japanese people. But as far as I'm concerned, the adventure, the whole plan, the whole trip went perfectly. Like I had no problems because of the virus. As I was in Japan, I was growing concerned, though, because I was checking social media and I was checking my loved ones and my family, and I was constantly talking to them. And they talked about, well, school's canceled for the rest of the year, or school's canceled for a month, or, all these bad things are going on, and businesses are closing down. When you come back home, you're going to be working from home. You can't even come to the office anymore. And I'm just getting more and more nervous and more nervous. And I was getting really freaked out a little bit. But I tried to ignore it and just have fun and then just enjoy myself. And when I wound up traveling back, the security and everything from Fukuoka to Tokyo, super simple. Got on my plane. Plane was a little bit more full, but I would say still not too bad. Probably about 3/4 full. The person to the right of me on my flight was there, but nobody to the left. Like 2 seats were empty to my left. So still, we had plenty of space, plenty of room to ourselves. Nobody was really on top of each other. I would say probably while my time in Japan, about half of Japanese people that I ran into had masks on, and half didn't. It's probably pretty similar to the way that America is now. When you go to a store, you go to Walmart or something, and all the employees are wearing masks, and about half the customers are wearing masks. But on the trip back, I was getting nervous. Once I landed in Chicago, I'd heard all sorts of horror stories about people sitting in customs for hours and hours in big crowded rooms with all these people coughing and stuff, but none of that happened either. It was super, super easy. I walked in. All of us went through it, went very quickly. I think the guy who was doing my customs review or just asking me where I'd been, he asked me 2 questions. He said, was I in Italy and was I in China? And I said, nope, to both. And he said, okay, there you go. If you feel sick, stay home for 14 days. And that's literally it. And then I walked out. It took about 10 minutes to get through everything. I went through, had to do the facial scan, everything else when you came back into the country. But honestly, I've driven to Canada and trying to get back in the U.S., I had a more issue trying to get back into the U.S. from Canada through their customs and their line crossing security, more so than this trip to Japan. They were super easy, and everything getting back was absolutely simple, and I had no problems at all with the whole thing. So I guess I was pretty lucky. So traveling with this whole thing, like there's a lot of horror stories out there, and there's probably a lot of bad experiences and very legit bad experiences, but I got super lucky. No issues on my travels there, no issues while I was there, and no issues on my travels back. So. But this is going to be a long series of videos that I'm going to do here. I just wanted to do kind of an intro to kind of let you know how it all went, and everything went great. I've got footage from Hard Off, I've got footage from Mangasuko, I've got footage of Mandarake, I've got footage of hiking and biking in mountains, I've got footage of sushi places and ramen, eating street ramen, all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to put those all together and start releasing them probably one a week for the next month and a half to kind of like show you guys my whole adventure here. So I hope you guys will enjoy it, and I think you guys will. And if you're interested in traveling to Japan and you have any questions for me, you can always let me know. You can follow me on Twitter @_Joshua Turbo. Don't forget the underscore, as it is the most important underscore in all of the internet. All right, guys. Thank you. See you in part deuce. Part deuce.